Good morning, everyone. Is that too loud? Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Stephen. And thank you for the organizing committee for asking me to be one of the presenters today. It's my pleasure to be here to talk to you about my woodlot in Scots Bay. I'd also like to welcome the Woodland owners who are here today, the fellow owners. And I'm sure that there's a number of operations and treatments that are going on in Western Nova Scotia, and I hope to meet with some of you and talk to some of you later throughout the day. Just a little bit about my woodlot. I'm a small woodlot owner. This lot is located in Scots Bay. That's Highway 101, exit 11. You go up through Canning, up to the Lookoff, and down to here, which is about 9 kilometers from the Lookoff and 2 or 3 kilometers from the village of Scots Bay and the hiking trail at Cape Split. I purchased this property in 1995, so I've owned it for 30 years. It's 55 acres. It's 950 feet on the highway, that's Highway 358, and it's 2,500 feet deep down to the Bay of Fundy. I'm very fortunate to have owned this property in the last 30 years. It's provided me with a lot of benefits. And over the years, we've done a lot of treatments on the property, from silviculture, weeding, planting, road construction, putting in culverts, pulling weeds. So over the years, I've watched this forest grow. And I'm going to today talk to you and give you an overview on a harvest that we've done in 2024 using sustainable woodlot management techniques. Over the years that I've had the property and other properties as well, I've done clear cutting, and my thinking has kind of been shaped and now focused more on the sustainable model, which I find has more benefits for me and maybe for other small woodlot owners as well. So today I'd like to talk about the planning process, the actual operation plan for the harvest, and the environmental, economic, and social impacts of doing the sustainable harvest. The previous landowner had done a forest management plan in 1988. And in that plan, there was some very valuable information that we were able to use. Close to the highway, right here, there was a field and a pasture, and it had been overgrown with a lot of undesirable species. So the plan, the forester at that time had recommended that it be clear cut and planted with Norway spruce. Norway spruce is not a native species to Nova Scotia, and it was introduced in the 80s as a fast-growing fiber tree to support the pulp and paper industry. Just out of curiosity, is there anybody here that had Norway spruce planted on their property? What? Back there? Oh, quite a few. Was it about 40 years ago? Yeah? Good. Well, it certainly grew well on my property. The trees close to the road that were on this pasture probably had a lot of manure, and they're like 40 feet high and They're like this, a lot of them. Oops. So, the plan. The plan was developed with Andrew, Oliver, and Bronson Jodrey from the Western Woodlot Services Co-op. And I was very fortunate to be a member of the co-op and have access to these foresters. This is something that I couldn't have done on my own. This service that they provide is very valuable, and they deserve the credit for developing this plan and taking me through from step to step, right through the whole marketing process. So I'm going to talk about 4 distinct areas on the plan. This is area, This is area A, B, C, and D. So area A, or stand A, is approximately 20 acres of Norway spruce. Now I wanted to maintain the integrity of the forest, but I wanted to improve it. So obviously when you look at a stand like that, it's 40 years old, so it's an even-aged forest. It had grown to a point where the canopy closed in and nothing was growing underneath. A lot of dead trees underneath. It was even difficult to walk around in there. And there was only one species primarily, was the Norway spruce. So what we decided to do was cut 3 small strips on each side. The strips are approximately a half an acre each. The road goes down the middle, so I have 500 feet on one side of the road, 500 on the other. So these little strips are kind of like garden plots. And it opened up forest, and it is good for fire mitigation, and we'll be able to plant some climate-resistant hardwoods in there because there's very little hardwoods there presently. So we have these 6 strips in section A there. Here's a picture coming in on the road. You can see there's Patricia standing by one of the Norway spruce trees. I've trimmed the branches up and cleaned it up in there. It's kind of like a little park. I get my forest bathing in there. I like walking around there. See lots of animals. The other day there was a fox there. So harvesting the strips. I'm just going to go back here for 1 second. What we did here, I didn't want to drive in on my property and see a clear cut. So we put a border all the way around. There's a border at the highway, and there's a border on the road going down. We have a nice forwarding trail going into the strips, but you don't see it, and we spent a considerable amount of time studying the direction of the wind, which can be quite bad on the Bay of Fundy, the sun direction. And so these strips would open it up and allow for shade-tolerant trees to be planted along the edges, and ones that need more exposure to sunlight could be planted in the middle. So this is a picture of Mike Manning, who was the harvester, and he did a very careful job. We had it flagged out, and he went in, and as you can see how dark it is along the edges here, this will open it up. And all the trees around the perimeter now will not be competing for as much sunlight. They'll be able to put on a little bit more volume. You can see the slash that's left with Norway spruce. Here's our forwarding trails. And this is basically an infrastructure that you have now. You're able to do various treatments. They're all connected. This has been cleaned up a little bit. They're only 5 meters wide, but if you want to go in and do any planting or weeding or silviculture, any windfall that you need to have taken out, forwarding trails are connected to all the strips and patches. It's the timber that was coming off, studwood that was going, and I have a D-class road in there. And here's Bronson standing in one of the patches. We were very careful to try to leave the hardwoods, the nice seed trees in these areas. So, I've explained what we did on the Norway spruce plantation in Stand A. Stand B and C were also in the forest management plan that was written in 1988. In that plan, it said that there was a clear cut done on some of that area about 15 years before the plan. So in the early 70s, those areas were clear cut and left for natural regeneration. Quite a bit of fir grew in that area, along with some nice red spruce and some hardwood. So we went in and flagged out mature stands of fir that were around 50 to 60 years old. And we had 6 small patches that we cut and 2 more strips. It was a total of 4 acres in a stand of about 30 acres. So again, it was a 15% harvest and 85% of the forest was left intact. So what we had was approximately 50 acres. 20 on the top, 30 on the bottom, then you have the roads that are put in that. So we cut 15% and left 85%. And our thinking was that the forest that remains will put on approximately 1 cord an acre per year. So in this harvest, we took out 225 cord on the 7 acres. It was averaging about 30 cord to an acre, or 450 tons. This is the second year for the harvest. So the first year, we're thinking that the 40 acres of the main forest put on volume of about 40 more acres, or 40 more cord. And in 6 years, if it continues to grow like that, volume-wise, we will recoup the 225 cord that we cut, which is a little different from clear cutting. Plus, the integrity of the forest remains. It will continue to sequester carbon, clean our air and water, and provide many other benefits as a forest does. Here's the forwarder picking up some of the studwood. And here's Andrew and Mike. We figure there's about 25, 30 cord there. So we had 225 cord that came off. We had a couple field days down on the property. We had some students and we had the forest professionals, and you could see here the amount of slash that was left in that harvest. And this was a year later, and I'll show you a picture in a minute. I was really surprised on how well the slash had been packed down and disappeared. So in section D, or stand D, we put a road in. And this again was a B-class road. This is Jeff Whitney from Eagle Eye Excavation and Andrew, and we're discussing the road, where it should go. Here it is roughed up. Wanted to put ditches in. It's on a hill and there's a lot of surface water coming down, so we tried to dry that up there, and there's very little rock on this particular property. There's some surface rock, but you go down 2 feet and it's nothing but clay. So we had to bring gravel in from a local quarry up the road. So reforestation, I've been growing red oak trees from acorns the last 3 years, and I've had a little experiment going on. So I'm very pleased that I'm involved with the Clean Foundation and their 2 billion tree program. I applied for it when it came out, and I was accepted, and they're going to do a planting for me in the fall. So the environmental impacts we had was even age stand. We're going to try to correct that. Canopy closed in, we're opening it up. Lack of species diversity, we're going to plant a number of different species in there. It's kind of emulates a natural disturbance around the Bay of Fundy. Increased biodiversity. As I said, continues to sequester carbon, cleaner air and water, mitigate. The economic impacts. The clear cut that I did about 7 years ago, I was given stumpage, so I got a check, and now I got a big field and it's growing, but it'll never be another harvest in my lifetime. It's going to be another 30 years before anything is done down there. So, landowner compensation, that would be a separate topic, I think. We only got 2 minutes, but I will tell you, as a small private woodlot owner, if we don't have the supports from Western Woodlot Services Co-op, who provides the professional foresters and helping me with this, and Nova Scotia, Forest Nova Scotia for their road program, the Clean Foundation. So all these organizations are in place to help the small woodlot owner. I don't think I could do it without it. So the social impacts, there's a long history of the property in Scotts Bay. When my deed was searched, it went back to 1864, and it talks all about, I researched it, and it's the age of sail and the shipbuilding yards that were down there, and 14 sawmills were down there in the 1800s. We decided that we are not going to burn the slash. We are just going to do a site prep, try to pile it up, fill in some of the low spots, and expose some of the organic material for planting. There was the DNR evaluation committee that came out a couple times to interview me and take a look at the property, and I certainly appreciate the visit and the honor of nominating me and giving me the award for Woodlot Owner of the Year. So again, I would like to thank everybody, Western Woodlot Services Co-op, DNR who funds the co-op, a very valuable resource, road building through Forest Nova I did some silviculture and infill planting with Sustainable Forestry, Clean Foundation who's going to be planting. All the harvesters, road builders, truckers, etc. And right now we're in the process of applying for the Forest Stewardship Council certification. And again, the Western Woodlot Services Co-op can give you information about that. They have a table right outside. So looking at this property as meeting the standards in Canada for Sustainable Woodlot Management Certification. Thank you very much, and we're looking forward to the rest of the day.